You have tuned into The Voice of Medicine, the medical podcast filled with remarkable stories, first-hand experience, important research, and valuable life lessons. Open your mind, relax, and enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Voice of Medicine. I hope everybody is doing great. Today, you are in for another treat because the Tom Catena, yes, you heard right, Dr. Tom Catena is my guest. He's an American physician, for those of you who don't know, who has been practicing medicine in Sudan, in Kenya, Guyana. He was in Honduras back in 1998, now working in Nairobi, Kenya once more. Tom was the only surgeon in Sudan during the war crisis for over 750,000 people. So nearly 1 million people, and he was literally the only doctor, the only surgeon, around in the geographical area who was treating them. So Dr. Tom, as the locals call him, is a hero in his own right, treating patients where others would not be willing to go, earning a salary close to nothing. Rightly, he was awarded with the Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity in 2017.
Yes, thanks, Michael. It's great to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Tom, already in your young age, you have been, around the world. You worked, as far as I saw, as an English teacher in Tokyo. The Navy brought you to places around the world, and then somehow you ended up in Africa. And I was asking myself, what is it about Africa that made you stay there? I mean, did you kind of fall in love with Africa?
Yes. I guess I did. I'm, of course, an American, but the Italians have an expression called mal de Africa. And it's kind of the sickness of Africa, where it's kind of a love sickness, where people from the Western world go to Africa and they fall in love with it. And they can't get it out of their minds and they have to stay there. So I think I very much am a victim of mal de Africa. Initially, when I was in college, I wanted to do missionary work. And that's, I think, what gave me my interest in traveling around a lot. And when it was time, after I finished university and medical school and my postgraduate training, and it was time to kind of go off and start my job, I thought, well, I still want to do mission work, and I think for now, Africa, probably Africa in general, and certainly places I've gone to, are the areas of greatest need, and I think that's how I chose to come to Africa as a medical doctor. I saw the need was greater here than, say, in the Western world or in Asia or other places.
Okay, I saw that you worked as a flight surgeon for the Navy. I
Yes.
must admit, I don't know what that is. What does a flight surgeon do?
Well, I think you'll be disappointed, Michael, because it sounds like this very glamorous job of flight surgeon, like you're operating on people at the speed of sound. Basically, what we do as a flight surgeon is you take care of the pilots and their families, and the pilots, the American military pilots are probably the healthiest people in the world. So you end up taking care of guys with colds and with runny noses, sore throats, this kind of thing. The medical part is not very interesting, but the enjoyable part is we had a chance to go into some of the aircraft and fly with the pilots, and they would just put us in the back seat. We'd fly in some of the missions, which was kind of fun and interesting. Just kind of get a peek into that world. I certainly couldn't do that full time, and I wouldn't want to do that work. But it would, for us, and for me especially, was interesting just to kind of get a glimpse into that world of what it's like to be a pilot, and it was a nice time in life, actually.
I can imagine what kind of a wonderful experience it must have been. So somewhere around,
yes, it was.
As you were telling me, somewhere around the time that you came to Africa, you realized that there is a greater need for a physician in Africa than anywhere else in the world. And altogether, from what I saw, from what you have done and been doing, your work is you're one of the few physicians who can claim that with limited resources and hard situations, despair, poverty, many other things which kind of speak against practicing medicine in the country. I mean, you were there and you endured. And I was asking myself, how did you manage, and why do you think that you succeeded where perhaps others would have given up?
Well, I think this probably pertains more to my time here in Sudan. I've been here for a little more than 11 years, and there were several times when, a few times when we were asked to leave, told to leave. Not only me, but the other missionaries here, the sisters and the priests especially. Um, and there've been, some very, very difficult times. I think in the end, the way I look at it, and I think it's the same for the other missionaries who have stayed here, is that we're here as missionaries, meaning we're here to show the love of Christ for the people here. And maybe to some people that sounds a bit stupid or a bit funny or a bit strange or whatever. But I think if you want my honest answer, I think we're here as missionaries, and we take it very seriously that our duty is to the people here, and that we can show the love of Christ by helping the people. So if there's a crisis, if there are problems, if there are frustrations, these things that come up every day, if we pack up and leave and say, okay, we give up, then we're not really fulfilling our role as missionaries. So I think a lot of it is that we take that role very seriously. I think my faith has been able to sustain me during all these times. It's not just the time when there was fighting. There are many other, actually worse times, the times of frustration and, times when the staff are up in arms, the staff are revolting and causing problems.
Mm-hmm.
There are many different instances where you just want to throw in the towel and say, the heck with this. It's just too difficult. But I always come back to my faith, which says, I've been given a lot in this life, and I think a lot is expected of me. And I think it's kind of my turn and my time to pay that back, not so much out of a sense of guilt, but out of a sense of realizing really what I've been given in life, and really a deep obligation to help the people here. And there's never been any from Christ himself, who's, of course, the founder of her religion, and many of the fathers of the church and everybody else. Nobody has had an easy time. I mean, how many people have been killed for their faith and have had terrible, terrible challenges and difficult times? So I think it's just kind of par for the course. So I think without that grounding in faith, I don't think I could have stayed this long. I think I would have packed it up and said, the heck with it, I need to get out of here. But with God's grace, we've stayed on, and hopefully we'll continue to stay until we're no longer needed.
I can very much, hear the deeply rooted responsibility and gratitude, and this will to, give back, which is, rooted in your faith. And I want to go back to what you said about challenges. I would like to talk about maybe a few challenges that you had to go through. I would be, for example, very interested. I think I read on the internet that one of the things which sort of happened to you is you were suddenly exposed to, a number of cases which, sorry for the expression, you probably had no idea about. Because I guess, any doctor does not know the whole medicine. So, suddenly people come to you with things you've never experienced before, or maybe you had to do surgery, which you were not 100% sure about. So how did you go on with the cases where you were not medically 100% fit, because possibly you could not be, but you did it anyways, and you succeeded because, there was no one else.
Right. So, I think one of the problems here is when you're kind of on your own, and there is no avenue to refer a patient somewhere else. So I think the attitude I take is, okay, the patient's here. This is my responsibility. I cannot refer this patient anywhere. There's nobody else that I can refer to. There's no larger hospital I can send the patient to. So my decision at that point comes down to, do I think I can help the patient by doing something, whether doing an operation or giving chemotherapy or some kind of protocol? Do I think I can help the person, or do I think I'll cause more harm by doing this intervention? And I just try to break it down into pros and cons of either doing something or doing nothing. And if it kind of falls on the side of, okay, I think we have a chance to help this person, I'm not 100% sure, I'm a bit afraid to do this, but I think we've got a decent chance of doing more harm than good, then we'll go ahead and do it, whether it's an operation or embark on a treatment protocol or whatever. And I think that's held us up pretty well over the past 11 years. I think then you can go kind of with a clear conscience, and the sense that you are doing this for the benefit of the person. And there have been times when I thought, I don't think I can help this person. I think if I'm trying to give a certain example. There are certain, say, facial tumors or things that say, okay, I think I'll cause more damage than good. if I try to do this operation, and I
Mm-hmm.
won't. I'll just provide palliative care or do the best we can without doing something more invasive. Because thinking that, okay, if I embark down this road, I think I'll inflict pain on this person, cause maybe more disfigurement, more problems. So let's focus on making the person comfortable and doing the best we can with what we have here. And that's held up pretty well, I think, over time.
I realized, with of course less severe cases, but when people are in need, they can get very, creative. They can really get their hands on and find solutions to things. And I was thinking you probably also experienced moments where, I don't know, you were perhaps missing an instrument, or I don't know, there was not, the bed wasn't there. It's supposed to be. You were just missing sort of object or just the infrastructure for certain things, and you had to work it around. And also the staff, I mean, you must be missing a lot of times staff which was educated in medical things. So how did you work with that? What did you do?
Well, I'll tell you, when the pressure is on, you'll be amazed. Anybody will be amazed how much you can innovate and improvise to keep things moving ahead. And not just me. I mean, myself, some of our staff, some of our operating room assistants who, some have a primary school education. They'll come up with certain solutions how to do something, just because we don't have other options. We don't have the right instrument, the right things. So, I mean, I think in the Western world, people are they're really challenged in that way because the right stuff is always there. So in our situation, we're always faced with situations where we have to improvise. We don't have exactly what we need. So you take what we have, we improvise, we innovate, we make a solution to make it fit the circumstances. And I think we all have some knowledge. I mean, I'm not a great technical fix-it kind of guy, but I think myself with our staff, we end up coming up with a lot of appropriate solutions to the problems here. And I think that's just the result of the pressure that's put on us, that we don't have exactly what we need. So we innovate and we come up with something else, and it works. I mean, it's amazing what you can innovate and get to work to keep things functioning and moving along.
I am sure that, when you came to a number of communities, I mean, by now you're probably well respected. There is a lot of gratitude. People know you. But I would be interested, how was it in the beginning when you, for example, came to Sudan? How were the people? And, just out of curiosity, since I'm a fan of languages, do you speak Arabic by now, or Bantu, I think, is the one in Kenya? So did you kind of acquire some language knowledge?
Yeah, as far as languages, I speak a bit of broken Arabic, at least enough to communicate with the patient. So I can do the rounds, I can see patients in clinic and, give them instructions and get the history and physical and do what I have to do. So I speak enough Arabic that I can get by. I learned that on the job here once I arrived in Sudan. When I was in Kenya before then, I spoke Kiswahili, which is kind of a conglomeration of Bantu languages plus a bit of Arabic, a little bit of Arabic and a little bit of Portuguese, actually. Just kind of learned those languages on the job. In terms of how we were received, it's interesting because when we first arrived here in March 2008, we thought, okay, we're here, we'll start this hospital. And we thought people would really welcome us with open arms. And that wasn't quite the case. It was really rough going for the first few years. I think there was a lot of suspicion. The people on the surface were welcoming. The people here are very friendly. But deep down, there was something kind of lurking underneath that you couldn't quite figure out. I think the bottom line was they just didn't trust us when we first came. This place had and has still been at war for so many years. There's a lot of mistrust. People just don't accept you as you are. They see people and they say, okay, what's his angle and what they trying to do to us? And it takes a long time to earn their trust. So I think there was that lack of trust when we first came. There were rumors going around that we were sent by the Khartoum government to open this hospital and, harm the people and poison them or whatever. The local government was very much against us. The local secretary of health, the local health department guy who was, he didn't really have much, he really had nothing to work with, but he was kind of the guy in charge. He was a former soldier and he was very much against us. Yeah, we just kind of held our ground and kept quiet. We didn't confront anybody. We kept doing our thing. And over the course of a few years, this after just treating thousands of people, treating pretty much all the family members of these local officials that were against us, and thank God they got better. That we finally got some measure of trust. That really the big turning point was when the Civil War broke out again in June 2011, and we stayed and we didn't leave and we kept things going. I think then people said, okay, these guys are legitimate. They're really here to help us, and they cut us some slack at that point. But it took time. It was a good 3 years before we felt that people had accepted us. It was not easy in the beginning.
So you had to basically prove yourself by continuous action and the help that you gave the people. I understand.
Yeah.
But it's great that you made it through. What I wanted to ask you is perhaps this might be a little personal, so you don't need to answer it if you don't want to or cannot. But I would be really interested. Do you have as a personal anecdote, for example, a case of a patient which did not look good at the beginning, but had a happy end?
Yeah, there's, let me think. We've had quite a few kids with spina bifida. And really, a lot of these kids, I didn't think we'd have a good outcome because they came in late, and the defect is a defect of the lower spine. Basically, there's a defect in the spinal canal when the spinal cord itself implants on the skin. And these babies normally they have a big swelling in the lower back, and if you don't repair it, that thing will rupture and they'll get infected and they'll die from the sepsis. Mm-hmm. So you got to take all that down and basically reform the spinal cord and spinal canal, tuck it back under the skin. And we've had several of those children I thought would not do very well. And they've all really done quite well. We've had a lot of pediatric surgery cases. One was a young girl who had a bilateral kidney tumor, they're called Wilms tumors. She had bilateral Wilms tumors. One kidney was completely encased in tumor, and the other kidney, the lower third of it, was full of cancer. So we had to take one kidney out, and the other kidney, we had to take out about half of it. And this would have been this is probably 2014, I would guess, maybe 2013. And she did very well. The operation went well. We gave her chemotherapy after. She was doing great. And I saw her once or twice in follow-up, and she's doing very well. Now, I didn't see her for about 4 or 5 years. And I assumed, to be honest with you, she died. They're from a place about quite far from here. Just about a month ago, this young girl's name was Rita. Somebody came up and said, I saw Rita. She's up in Kauli. She came. She's a grown-up now. She's like, 6, 7 years old. And they said hello to her, and she's doing fine. And really, I was so happy when I heard this because I really thought this girl had died. And I said, please, you've got to get this girl to come back so I can see her and see how she's doing. But that was really something where I didn't think we'd have a great outcome, and things turned out very well. There was so many a lot of incidences from the wartime when the fighting was heavy. Many severe trauma cases from either aerial bombardments or bullet wounds or shrapnel wounds. When somebody comes in with a huge, with an Antov, like when there's an aerial bombardment, these big chunks of shrapnel explode and just tear through people. And I'm just thinking, I saw a guy a couple of days ago, one of the soldiers, and I just said how we were chatting for a while. And I remembered a couple of years ago, he was hit with one of these things, and he came in and his whole side was torn off. The side of his abdomen was just torn off. The muscle and skin was just torn off, and his intestines were all hanging out, and he could barely breathe. He was really half dead. And we took the guy and we gave him some blood and fluid and took him to the operating room, and he had a slow recovery, but he's 100% fine now. This guy really was so badly traumatized. You think nobody can ever survive that. And he pulled through. And there are many, many other cases like that I can't, I wouldn't have time to talk about all of them, but there are a lot actually that really people you thought would never recover that end up doing very well. So that's the gratifying part of the work.
Wow, nothing short of a miracle, that's for sure. And I wanted to say as well, this is the beautiful thing, when you give your 100% and you do things which other people would not do, and then you see the patient and you see they actually survived. That as you just said, it must be extremely gratifying, and why you're there when you see that kind of thing.
Yes.
What I was wondering about you is, what was the reaction maybe of some of your friends or family when you told them, hey guys, I'm going to Africa, I'm going to do this kind of job, or even, after a few years, I'm staying here because I like it. I can imagine that, a lot of people were probably warning you, or maybe they were afraid. I don't know. What was the experience?
Yeah, I'd say for my family, from day one, I arrived in Africa January 2000. Mm-hmm. So I've been here for almost 20 years, and they were pretty happy for me actually. They've been extremely supportive throughout these 20 years. Even the worst times during the fighting here, they never wrote to me or said, "Look, pressure me saying, Tom, you need to get out of there. It's too dangerous. You need to think about your family." Blah blah. They're always supportive. saying, look, if you think you need to be there, if you think this is where you're supposed to be, you stay and do your thing. We're here. We're praying for you. You have our support. And I can't tell you how important that was. That I can say, okay, the family is behind me, because if they were pressuring me, or my parents were saying, look, Tom, we're old, we need you back, enough of this business, it would have been very difficult to stay. Same with my friends. I mean, my friends, to the man or to the woman, have been very, very supportive of the work. I mean, some say, I think you're a bit crazy, but almost everybody has been really, really supportive. Very supportive of what I'm doing, and very encouraging in so many ways. So I can't thank the family and friends enough for their encouragement over the many, many years I've been here.
Well, it's great when you know that you have the family having your back, they're supporting you, and especially if they kind of let you do the thing which you believe is the right thing for you to do. So
right.
that's absolutely great and motivating. I wanted to ask you, since you're, at least in my eyes, the special kind of physician who really does the medicine for the people. So, I mean, you know very well yourself that in a lot of countries, there is tremendous economical pressure on medicine. And
right.
I'm not pointing fingers, but a lot of doctors these days did kind of get the idea of, confounding medicine with, acquiring wealth, money. So it kind of gets into the direction that some doctors are becoming exclusively interested in that. And I don't think that this is a good thing for medicine. But, after all, I'm not a doctor. I don't really see into that community completely. But I would like to know your personal and honest opinion, how you see this. Where is this going? And can we do something? Can the medical community do something to bring the medicine back to the humans?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably in Europe, you guys are much better off than we are in the U.S. Our system is very. I mean, your system is a little more, I think, even balanced, where doctors don't make huge salaries. In the U.S., I mean, doctors make a lot of money, and I think I don't begrudge anybody from making a big salary. That's not the point. But I think really when you do that, the more money you make, the more you separate yourself from the people you're trying to serve. And I think that's a big obstacle that you place between you and your patients. Medicine really, I mean, at the end of the day, medicine is really, really a calling. Whether if you approach it from a Christian standpoint, you're an atheist. It's a calling. And unless your heart and soul are into it, the job is absolutely brutal. And I think if you took some of the monetary incentive away from it, I think you would probably cultivate a class of doctors that were more interested in it for the service aspect and less so for the money. I mean, the argument's always going to be, okay, if you take that away, you won't get the top students, you won't get the top people, they'll go into business or whatever. And that's partly true. But I think you would still attract a good number of doctors who are really committed to the work and are willing to do it for not a huge salary. I mean, enough to make a decent living. I mean, I wouldn't begrudge that to anybody. But I think you lose a lot when you conflate your job with a way just to make money. I think you lose a lot as a physician. And I think the spirit of medicine is lost when that happens. The U.S. is always this. You mentioned the word social. What's it called? Socialized medicine, and people just go crazy when they hear this term. I mean, I know in Europe, many countries have this system. It's not so foreign to you guys. And I think it'd be very difficult in the U.S. I'm not sure that's. I'm not saying this. I'm not into this. The politics of it. I'm not sure that's the solution, because if you do that, you probably force people into that they're not comfortable. But it would have to come from within the medical community. So, okay, this is our profession. We hold this in very high esteem. We will do this work, and we'll do it for a salary which is not unreasonable. It's not out of whack with the rest of the population. But I think that reform would probably have to come from within. At least in the U.S., I think it'd be very difficult to impose that from outside.
Thank you very much for your honest opinion on this one. I had a sort of connected idea to this, but I hope people are not going to run berserk on me for saying this out loud. But do you think that it would be, let's say, an idea worth exploring to say every doctor has to do 1 year as a volunteer, mandatory? Would that change anything? Would it give the medicine something what it doesn't have if people don't volunteer, for example?
I think that'd be a fantastic idea. I mean, that concept has been around for many years in many countries. In the U.S., there was a plan. Of course, it wasn't necessarily voluntary. It was with the military, but the same idea. You have tiers of service in the military when you finish medical school. This was back in the 60s and 70s, early 70s, I think. In Holland, for many, many years, they had a program when you finished your medical school and maybe an internship, you had to do, I think it was 2 years of service, and you could do that either, I think, with the military, or they could assign you to a hospital in Africa or in Southeast Asia or somewhere, some hospital which had a need for a general practice doctor. So a lot of Dutch physicians, many Dutch physicians that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s had this experience with a group called MEMISA. And I think that was a fantastic thing. And I've run across many Dutch physicians over the years in Africa that got cut their teeth during this time. So I think it'd be a great idea, give everybody that perspective of real kind of bare bones medicine and what it's like to volunteer, what it's like to really give service for a year's time. I think it's a very good idea. I mean, you could probably do it certain ways. In the U.S., you could maybe suspend your loan payback or whatever for that year. But I think to make that mandatory, I think is not a bad thing. I don't think you're imposing too much on somebody. You're asking for a year out of their life, and I think it would. I'm sure many people would have an experience that year that they would keep for the rest of their lives. I'm sure of it. They will remember that year of service for the rest of their lives. I think it'd be very important to do that.
Tom, what can people do to support you or similar causes? Maybe colleagues who are doing the same work as you do, maybe a little bit shorter. For the people out there who might be interested to kind of support you, perhaps even do the same as you did. Volunteer as medical staff. What can they do?
Well, certainly volunteering would be of help, and there are some organizations that can facilitate. You wouldn't necessarily need to come here to Numa Mountains, but I think the volunteers somewhere give some of your time to a place which is really in need, and really give it your all, put everything into it, and really go and work somewhere. Whether it's in Africa, Southeast Asia, whether it's in a poor community in Europe or the U.S., some idea of service. Do that for a period of time as a volunteer or as just kind of someone's paying your expenses, just the living expenses for that year. I think that'd be a great way for personal growth and also to help somebody else. I mean, I always tell people, and I don't mean this in a crass or a cynical way, but you can never underestimate the help you give by giving financial help. I mean, I don't want to be I don't want to be so blunt about it, but we survive now. Our hospital here, we take care of 100-some thousand people a year, 2,000 operations. It's a big facility here, and we run almost 100% on individual donations. So if somebody really thinks, look, I'm not a medical person, I don't know what I can do, I want to send something to those people there. It helps. It actually is of more help if you just send a cash donation. And I don't mean to sound crass. I'm not saying you have to send it to me, but some organization that you like and respect really does use these funds appropriately. Do your own research, see if they use the funds appropriately. But for us, we cannot do anything here without that financial support from individuals. So I appreciate that very, very much. And sometimes that's of all the options that it's okay. What can I do? I don't feel like I'm doing enough. That actually is a very concrete and straightforward and easy way to really help somebody out here. Whether it's Numa Mountains or some other place which is in great need.
I get that. Tom, let's just get, sort of like a link from one of these organizations which that, they are using the funds appropriately. Maybe you can, vouch for some of these because you know them personally, you know how they work. And I'll put a link, below the video so people who are actually interested, they can really donate and help you guys out there.
Sure. The organization that helps us the most is a very small group. It's called African Mission Healthcare. Mm-hmm. And it was started by an American doctor who worked at mission hospitals and saw them all kind of going under, having difficult times. So he set this organization up to help hospitals like us stay viable. And if we raise money, we send through them, and they do all the bookkeeping and the accounting and all the hard administrative work. And whatever somebody sends to them, 100% of that comes out to us here in the field. So all the money we need for salaries, for scholarships for our staff, a lot of money for the drugs and medicines we use, all comes from them. We have a few other donors also, but I like African Mission Healthcare because they really don't take anything out for their own use. And they have a website, is www.amhf.us. That's www.amhf.us. And if you go to that website, I'm pretty sure that there's a button there. Either my name is there or Mother Mercy Hospital. I can't remember which one is there. Maybe both. I think my name is there. Maybe picture. And I think you just click on that button if you want to make a donation. There's also a mailing address you can mail to. There's a mailing address in the U.S. It's very simple to donate. So Perfect. We're also supported by the Catholic Medical Mission Board. I'm a lay missionary with Catholic Medical Mission Board for many years. We're supported by Sudan Relief Fund. We're supported by the Aurora Foundation. Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, which is something else I'm very much involved in. I have another hat of being the chairman of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative. So I'm very close with this group that's in Armenia. They have also helped us quite a bit. So quite a few organizations which are well-run, efficient, and are really focused on helping us here in the field.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the information, because, I'm pretty sure that, a lot of people would like to donate, but perhaps they're hesitant because they don't know if the money really lands where it's supposed to. So having you telling us that this should be okay or is okay, that's all we need. So I'll definitely make sure that I put the link below the video. Tom, last question for you, perhaps a little philosophical, but so we end on a deeper note. Your inner compass, which guides you and makes you do things, and you already said it's the faith that you have. But some people are just not religious or spiritual. They just don't have the faith as a motive that it would guide them to do the things that you do. Do you have an advice for them that they can search for something similar inside and as an inner motivation to go out there and basically do good?
I mean, yeah, I certainly the work here is not exclusively in the realm of missionaries or people of faith. So I don't want to give that. I really don't want to give that impression at all, because there are people that don't have that they are able to do this kind of work. I think a lot of people get their motivation from seeing good results, seeing the impact they can have. And I think one of the beauties of working in this environment is with your knowledge. I mean, a lot of it's whatever knowledge you have. I mean, if you get somebody here that's good with computers, they can be such an asset to a place like us here, because we just don't have people skilled in these things. So whatever your talents are, there's almost always something you can do to assist other people. I mean, you'll be amazed. You think you're just a whatever, and you're there kind of trudging through your work every day, and you're not seeing much impact, or you don't see yourself making a difference. If you get yourself involved in some kind of volunteer work, you can find you have a lot of skills you never thought you had, and there's a tremendous amount of stuff you can do. So I would encourage people that have a heart for others, whether it's a religious viewpoint or not, to explore that and to see where it takes them. And I would ask them. I mean, don't be closed. Certainly, don't be closed to religion or what it says. There's so many. I mean, I understand the negative connotations from history or from whatever that so many. And plus, nowadays there's so many scandals and other problems going on. I understand that fully well, but I would just ask people to keep an open mind and to just encourage anybody who has a heart for people. I think the most important thing is your willingness to help other people. If you have that in your heart, then you'll find something to do. I just want to encourage them to do that.
So bottom line, closing statement, you can always make a difference as long as you want to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What it takes is the will, and at some point, a little bit of stepping off the cliff and a bit of courage to kind of make that leap. And I would really encourage anybody to do that at some point. Don't let it kind of eat away at you that I'm just kind of here going through the motions. If you really feel that calling or that urge, then I would strongly advise them to follow that.
Beautiful. Tom, thank you very much for taking your time.
You're very welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
Pleasure to talk to you.
This was The Voice of Medicine. Make sure you tune in next time and take care.